welcome to another week at the Football Show on the Global Sports Channel. I'm your host, David Barbash, and my co-host, Darren McCauley, striker extraordinaire, playing in Australia right now with St. Albans Dynamo. I hope I get that right. And, of course, having played before in Northern Ireland with Coleraine, also played with Derry, Celtic, and Inverness in Scotland. Welcome back, my friend. How are you doing today?
Good, David. Thanks for having me back.
And yeah, you're welcome. And always glad to sit across from you, at least thousands of miles away on the other side of the globe. We're missing Sutty today. Hopefully he'll be back next week. But I have a feeling that the 2 weeks he's actually missed since we've done the show coincided with beatings for his team, Arsenal. So you think it's one of those things that maybe he just doesn't like to get picked on when his team gets whooped.
Yeah, I think so. He has a lot to answer for.
He does. So next time you're on, Sutty, you're going to have to cough up all the reasons why Arsenal are looking pretty bad in the last couple of weeks. But we're with you, man. We're with you. We're here to help you through these times when you're feeling low and you feel like crying, like all the other Arsenal fans. We're here for you, buddy. More on a serious note, a better week for our two teams. Your team, Manchester United, it was a good week overall. Leeds United, you'll see, also a good week. Our teams are headed in the right direction. But first up, Wednesday, Darren, was the last games this week for the international games. Bunch of games on Wednesday, European time. And it was Armenia 3-2, surprising winners over Romania. Boy, since the 80s, Romania have taken a dive, losing 3-2 to Armenia. 4-1 winners were Hungary away from home to Andorra. Austria lost 4-0 at home to Denmark. And believe it or not, France were 1-0 winners, squeaking by against Bosnia-Herzegovina. Scorer for France was one of the guys that we talked about last week when we talked about players of all time at the World Cup who stood out to you. And you brought up the name when France won. You brought up the name Griezmann. And Griezmann still in the scoring, basically records. He actually scored the winner in the 60th minute. He's not having a bad year, maybe not playing at the heights when he was really banging them in for Atletico. But saying that, Griezmann's still a dangerous striker overall. Still, Griezmann, in your books, still the player he once was, or you think he's slipped a couple of notches?
I don't think he's at the level he was when he was at Atletico Madrid, but that's to be expected when you join Barcelona. Usually you don't really at your stride until the second season, but still a world-class player, fast, good in the air for such a small guy, super intelligent on the ball.
Yeah, I think he's got a great eye to him, although when Barcelona let go Suarez, I know he's a bad boy, but something about Suarez's movement off the ball to me was just almost second to none. Madman, part genius. What can you say? I mean, look at wherever he's gone, Suarez, he can bang in the goals. Hopefully Griezmann gets back to the same level. And the next game we're going to talk about a little bit here. Last time I was talking the praises, which I sing his praises every time we've talked about the international games, as well as the Golden Boot, and that's Robert Lewandowski. I didn't realize until we finished the last broadcast last week that he got injured in the last game he played at the internationals a week ago. And he sat out the game against England. England 2-1 winners against Poland. But we fell asleep a bit. Harry Kane, questionable penalty. They had to give a penalty, I guess. There was some contact to Sterling. I thought Sterling made a meal of it. I thought he went down with a bit of a simulation, a bit of a dive. Harry Kane steps up, converts easily in the 19th minute. Then John Stones, for some reason, falls asleep at the back. He sloppy at the back in possession in the 58th minute, leads to a Jakub Moder equaliser for Poland. And I thought, England's blown it. And then John Stones redeems himself with that assist to Harry Maguire in the 85th minute. And Harry Maguire doesn't make a mistake from about 5 yards out and buries it into the top of the goal. What's your evaluation looking at that game of England, where they stand? Are they a bit shaky in certain parts, maybe at the back, vulnerable, not as decisive up front? What's your take on England at this stage of the game in World Cup qualification?
Well, I can see them making progress, but they're definitely not the finished article. And Poland, especially without Lewandowski, are not going to be as confident. Stones makes a mistake. These things happen, and they shouldn't. But he redeemed himself by setting up Maguire, two centre backs linking up for the goal. So that's a positive. I've seen, the likes of Phillips from Leeds playing in the England squad. So they're bringing in more new players. I'd like to see them have a consistent 11. But Kane always producing the goods, world-class player, consistently performing well for England and for Tottenham. But have they a while to improve? Definitely.
Yeah, I think to get up to the standards of what we talked about last time, I mean, Mike brought up last time, it's breaking into trying to break up the Italy, Germany, France and Spain, and also the Big Five, Brazil, break up the Big Five. Could we do it? Yes, if we perform on that day, but we'd have to have all cylinders firing and hopefully maybe have one of the big 5 or 6 slightly off their game for us, I think, to go past the final 4. I don't see us getting past the semi-finals, but England on any given day, if England play well, especially up front, it's possible. It's possible. I just don't think we're tight enough in the defence. Let's move on to some of the other games real quickly. Greece, 1-1 draw with Georgia. How much have Greece fallen? Wow. We talked about this last week with some of the weird results with Greece. You brought this up. Was it 2000? Is it 2014 they won the Euros?
No, I think it would be earlier than that.
Was it earlier than that? I can't remember how far back it was. 2009, 2014. I can't remember the year. But it's been quite a bit of time, or maybe it's going all the way back to 2004.
It could be 2004, actually.
I think it's 2004, not 2014. I think I made a mistake. It's 17 years, essentially, since Greece won the Euros. And how have they fallen where they get a 1-1 draw with Republic of Georgia? So, wow. Liechtenstein, 4-1 losers at home to Iceland. Italy, 2-0 winners away from home to Lithuania, not a surprise result. Moldova, 4-1 losers at home to my boys in Israel. And Israel, we talked about that last time, slowly building up that team, but again, not a massive, they haven't massively proven themselves yet up against big opposition. Northern Ireland, a bit of a disappointment. A 0-0 draw at home to Bulgaria. Northern Ireland, we talked a little bit about them last week. Hopefully, they're headed in the right direction. But Bulgaria, a 0-0 draw, we were expecting a little bit more out of them on that. San Marino, 2-0 losers at home to Albania. Scotland, not a surprise, Darren. 4-0 winners at home to the Faroe Islands. If you're not beating the Faroe Islands, you might as well pack it up. 3-1 winners, Spain at home to Kosovo, and Ukraine 1-1 at home to Kazakhstan. Now, let's move on to Saturday and the Premier League games for week 30 and 31 for some. Chelsea, the biggest shock of the weekend, 5-2 losers at home to West Bromwich Albion. The 19th place baggies, West Brom, really, while they, on the given day, they've got some exciting strikers up front, capable attackers in Callum Robertson and, of course, Mateus Pereira. But to be honest, so far, since we've spoken about the reign of Thomas Tuchel as the manager at Chelsea, they have not lost a single game in the Premier League until now. How much of this was down to the sending off, in your estimation, Thiago Silva, 2 needless yellow cards, especially the second one? There's no question the second yellow wasn't deserved. It led to the red card. He gets sent off. At that time, when he gets sent off, Christian Pulisic had put them up in the 27th minute. Yes, a little bit of a lucky rebound he gets from the free kick. He converts it. Chelsea's 1-0 up. And then it all goes wrong after Silva is sent off. Pereira scores a brace, 45th minute, right before half-time, 2 minutes of added time, and then 4 minutes of added time, he gets the brace. Then on top of that, Callum Robinson with a beautiful strike to put them 3-1 up. Yes, Mason Mount pulls it back, makes it close, but that's after 0-0 had made it 4-1. And then, Mason Mount made it 4-2, and then Callum Robinson makes it 5-2 in the 91st minute. Now, I'm going to kick it back to you. Was it down to this sending off of Thiago Silva, in your estimation, or bad tactics for Chelsea, or deserved win for West Brom?
Well, yes, a deserved one for West Brom, but the sending off changes the whole complexion of the game. 2 yellow cards inside the first half, not too far apart. We see this time and time again, and sometimes it's not down to tactics or strength and conditioning or all those little things. It's players getting sent off early in the second half, particularly when they get 2 yellows. You should always be overcautious. But as a defender, when you get 2 yellows in the first half, you let your team down, and Chelsea didn't adapt. And West Brom were absolutely fantastic on the break. Let's give them some credit, because some of the goals they scored were technically very good.
The finishing was superb.
It was very good. So give them credit where it's due. But if the send off doesn't happen, do Chelsea go on to 1? Probably.
I think you bang on this one, Darren. I did like the finishes, especially from Pereira. Oh man, he took his goals. Technically, the execution was phenomenal. I love the first Callum Robinson goal as well, buried in the corner. They just were clinical when they had their chances. 7 shots on target for West Brom, and they, out of those 7 on target, 5 they score. Chelsea out 66% possession, 14 shots, 8 on target, and yet didn't make it count. Critical injury from that game comes away is Christian Pulisic injuring his hamstring. That's a concern for Chelsea. Let's see how they respond, because Chelsea were on this great run. All of a sudden, we're going to see how they respond when they lose their first match under the new manager, Thomas Tuchel. Let's move on. The next game on Saturday, you can see the smile on my face. Leeds United, once again, moving up the table. 2-1 winners at home to, we hate to get 3 points off the bottom side, Sheffield United, but we'll take it. Jack Harrison, goal in the 12th minute, well-taken goal. Jack Harrison is one of those players where you see him score like the first game of the season against Liverpool when we lost a close one, 4-3, where he can absolutely smash him in, and then other games where he switches off. But the same old thing. Leeds dominate possession, 54%. Well, I shouldn't say dominate. In this game, it was fairly even. 54% possession. 17 shots Leeds had, 8 on target, only 1 on target for Sheffield United. But Ben Osborne from Sheffield United, left alone, really, Alioski, poor marking, and Ayling both not picking up their markers in man-to-man marking. That's where Leeds shut off. We go in, tied up at the break, 1-1. And then Jagielka with an own goal for Sheffield United in the 49th minute. I really raised my hands and said, thank God, because it would have been really, I think, it wouldn't have been fair to Leeds with the amount of effort and possession and shot domination that Leeds had if they were to only go in with a point off this game. I wanted to get your take on Leeds in this game. Great record against the bottom 6, terrible record against the top 6. Fair where we sit right now, mid-table, you think, Leeds?
Yeah, absolutely. I think mid-table is a fair reflection of where they've performed this season. The table doesn't lie. We've talked about Leeds' style of play and how dynamic and fluid they are on the attack. But with that openness comes defensive vulnerability, and it shows with the amount of goals that they've conceded. And that kicked off right from the get-go when they had that 4-3 loss to Liverpool at the start of the season. But, you know, the likes of Harrison, Alioski, Rafinha, Bamford's hot and cold.
He came off, actually. Yeah, you saw that, right? He came off in the 65th minute. I think he looked a bit weary after limping off the previous game in the 77th. I think he was just, he wasn't 100%, and Rodrigo came on. I thought Rodrigo did okay, but not great, you know?
Yeah, they've got players that almost show world-class quality at times. They do glimpses of brilliance. So it's exciting time for Leeds, definitely. Would you have took it at the start of the season to be in the top 10, 12 position? I reckon you'd say yes.
Yeah, definitely. I think going in, the optimistic side of me said if we can finish as high as 8th, I'll take it. And if we finish as low as, say, 14th, I'll take it. And that's probably where we're going to finish up. I think we'll probably finish maybe as high, if we get lucky, as 8th. But since our next 3 games are against Man City, Liverpool and Manchester United, your team, I think at this point, I would take probably somewhere between 8th and 14th, maybe 12th. You know, 11th or 12th, I would very much take at this point. And if we could get 4 points or even 3 points from the next 9, I'll take it. Let's move on to the next game. That was Leicester City 2-0 losers at home to the leaders, Manchester City. I watched this game and I was disappointed in Leicester. Leicester has been one of these hot and cold teams. They only had 2 shots on target. Manchester City, 10 shots on goal, only 4 on target. But in the second half, they really took their chances well. Kevin De Bruyne, to me, has been a difference maker when he's come back in the side. De Bruyne hits the bar with that free kick in the first half. I think it was 23 or 24 minutes into the game. Then he has another close effort in the first half, just missed curling into the right-hand corner. Or if you're in the keeper's position, facing the ball, it would have crept into his left, just in the near post on his left. But Mendy getting that rebound in the 58th minute, and then Gabriel Jesus, assisted by Sterling in the 74th minute, wrapped it up. Look, we just finished the games in Europe today, which we'll cover in a little bit. We just saw Man City play against Borussia Dortmund. They're still in it in all 4 equations. They're in the spotlight and in the driver's seat, of course, to win the Premier League. They're in the 2 cups, and of course, they're still in it to win it in the Champions League. Do we really need to say any more about Man City, or do you need anything to add to that? We know how strong they are right now.
No, I think we've covered it all with City. Fantastic team. We're running out of superlatives to describe them. So fantastic season for them. You have to give Guardiola and the team credit for, uh, you know, preventing Liverpool from winning back-to-back titles. They responded to the challenge. They've dominated the league, and as a Man U fan, it's not great, but I suppose it'd be nice to see them do something in the Champions League because I would like to see the likes of Aguero and players like that have a go at a Champions League final just as a fan.
Yeah, and I think also what I call a sending off to Aguero, because that's I would guess that this is it for him at City.
Yeah.
Maybe he moves on and thinks he can maybe contribute for another couple of seasons somewhere else. He's near the end of his career, but I think he probably leaves in the transfer window, and we'll see about that. We wish him luck. And right now, the last game on a Saturday I want to cover, this was Mike's team, Arsenal, absolutely getting destroyed in the second half. It was close in the first half, but who's the difference maker? Once again, Diogo Jota comes on. I think he came on as sub 3 minutes before he scored his first of his brace. He came on in the 61st minute. He scores with an absolute beautiful, beautiful pass and put through. And then he scores. Actually, no. The first goal was that beautiful in-swinger from Trent Alexander-Arnold. Put the ball in. You couldn't have actually scripted it better. He curls it in from the right-hand side, literally on the head of Diogo Jota, and he converts with a bullet of a header. They go up 1-0. Then, of course, Mo Salah, a little bit, I think Gabriel maybe have fallen asleep a little bit on Mo Salah, but he sort of moves him out of the way a bit and then converts through Leno's legs. And then it's 3-0 when Gabriel, I think, makes a bit of a meal of that, and Jota scores his brace in the 82nd minute. Now, Jota, difference maker once again. I don't know. I think that's 6 goals in the last 5 appearances in all competitions for Diogo Jota. We talk about running out of superlatives. You and I, big fans of this guy. I love this guy. If he'd been healthy in that stretch where he was sitting out and Liverpool went on that poor run, maybe it didn't count today because we'll see in the European games. Okay, is it hard to come back and then do that every single game? Yes. But talk a little bit about the difference that Jota makes when he's in the Liverpool side and what happened to Arsenal in this game. Lacazette, Aubameyang partnered up front, it did make a difference.
Yeah, Jota's been a fantastic player for Liverpool when he's played. And like you said, if you can keep him healthy, then you're in with a chance of winning any game. I thought he was really good at Wolves, but he seemed to have upped his game here at Liverpool. He's performed with the Portuguese national team quite well also. So if he keeps going at this rate and he stays healthy, then you could have a world-class player on your hands. So I'm excited to see how he does next season if he can stay fit and healthy. Also, for such a small player, fantastic in the air. His timing and his power behind the headers were spot on. Alexander-Arnold with the cross, who I think is the best crosser of the ball since Beckham. I think he has that. He just puts it on a plate, and all you have to do is just be in the right position, and he'll find you. So now Jota is a huge miss for Liverpool. So it's exciting times for them to see how he'll progress. And Arsenal not good enough. They're just not. That's the bottom line. They don't have the experience in the Premier League. Their players don't have the depth that they once did, say maybe 10 years back.
Yeah, I think they're missing some of that leadership and experience. I liked the fact when they had that youngster Smith Rowe in the team a few games ago. He wasn't playing for some reason, but I liked him. And yeah, I don't think they have the chemistry yet. When they're on, Arsenal can beat any team, I think. And Pepe, I don't think, has really been the Pepe that we saw before he transferred to Arsenal. But there we go. Liverpool deserved 3 points. Arsenal, just a bad week for Mike's team, but they'll be back. Hopefully not against any of our teams. Sunday came around, and wow, this was I don't know if you saw this one, but Southampton, an impressive 3-2 comeback at home to Burnley. Burnley's got to sit there cursing themselves because 28 minutes in, they're 2-0 up. Chris Wood with the penalty in the 12th minute. Mate Vidra puts them up 2-0. You think, done and dusted, it's over. And yet, Stuart Armstrong, well-taken goal in the 31st minute. Danny Ings, my boy Danny Ings, when he's on, I like to see him regain that early season form where he was banging them in before his knee injury. In the 42nd minute, ties it up. And then Nathan Redmond used to be banging them in the Championship, 66th minute. And Hasselhut was going mental on the sideline, the manager for Southampton. I have to say that I think you've got to give credit on this comeback to Southampton. But if you're the Burnley manager, you've got to be scratching your head, absolutely scratching your head. What do you take on? Did you see the game at all? Did you see the highlights?
Yeah, I've seen the highlights, and it was a fantastic start with Burnley. Wood and Vidra linked up well, both got the goals. But you have to give Southampton tremendous credit for coming back. And I think the guy that spearheaded that was Danny Ings. He's been fantastic this year. I've actually heard a rumour Man City might be snuffing around him. So he's been fantastic this year. Redmond with the goal as well hasn't performed bad also, but Southampton always leak goals, so they're quite up and down. But 2-0 down, Burnley, a team like Burnley would be expected to see out the game with the experience that they have. They're a tough team to break down, but give credit where it's due. Southampton came back. They had plenty of time after being 2-0 down, and they got a good result.
Yeah, they got a great result. And Southampton really needed that to stop some of the bleeding. And for Burnley, that would have been a chance for them to move away from the bottom half. But they don't. And Southampton takes all 3 points. Now, interesting game next, believe it or not, was a game where Jose Mourinho, neither one of us, we admitted this before on other broadcasts. I'm not a big fan. I know you're not a big fan of his style of management, the style of play under him, wherever he's been. Newcastle, I was actually smiling. They get a 2-2 draw at home to Spurs. Joel Linton with a well-taken goal in the 28th minute. But then Harry Kane, in the space of 4 minutes, gets a brace, 30th minute and the 34th minute, and you think, well, Spurs are going to walk out of here with another 3 points and another heartbreak result for Steve Bruce's side. But Joe Willock in the 83rd minute, and we get a 2-2 draw. Now, the thing I want to say about this is I'm not sure I understand that Eric Lamela and Bale and Son all start on the bench. And you bring on Bale in the 88th minute, and you bring on Lamela in the 64th minute. I don't know some of these decisions. I'm not sure I agree with some of these managerial decisions, but Spurs are in a bit of a crisis mode. Your take on where Spurs lie right now? Do you think that Mourinho may be at the helm or not at the helm next season, in your opinion? And a deserved tie and 2-2 draw for Newcastle, or do you think Spurs should have buried this before the end of the game?
I'm not too sure if Mourinho will be there. He's changed clubs a lot over the last 10 years. But the result for Tottenham isn't that surprising because they are inconsistent. They can produce moments of brilliance, but over the years, they've just been quite flaky and never really been ones to win a trophy. So also bringing Beale on in the 80th minute, I just don't see the logic behind that. I didn't watch the game live, but for a player of that caliber, you would have expected him to come on a bit sooner than that, to try and influence the game a bit more. A team like Newcastle, Tottenham should be beating them, but again, it's just inconsistency from them.
Yeah, and I mean, in a way, you've got to love it because, of course, Manchester want to keep as much distance as they can to the following pack behind them, and Spurs are still in that pack. They're not, let's just say, numerically out of it yet, but they're falling away from any European spots. Next game up was Aston Villa, 3-1 winners at home to Fulham. And Fulham was in it. Just because the score says 3-1, I watched the game, and Mitrovic, with a well-taken goal, 61st minute, puts Fulham up. They're in the driver's seat. And yet, this is where smart management comes into play. In comparison to the last game we talked about, Mourinho waiting to 88th minute to bring on Bale. Look at Dean Smith. He brings on Trezeguet, and Trezeguet literally makes an immediate impact. You talk about well-taken goals. That cross comes in. Trezeguet buries it in the 78th minute. He buries another one in the 81st minute. They go up 2-1, and when Ollie Watkins wraps all 3 points in the 87th minute. I love this guy, Trezeguet. He's got a grey out for goal. Dean Smith has got some exciting players up front in Watkins. El Ghazi had an off game, but he's got Trezeguet to come on. Now, when they get back Jack Grealish, that's going to be a difference maker for them, because if they've got a healthy team, as they showed against Liverpool earlier in the season, they could be a team to watch next year. I'm not talking top 4, but they could be a top 6 threat. That's how much promise, I think. With a transfer window, if they're busy, I think Aston Villa. Any take on Aston Villa? I know you favour them sort of a mid-table type of side. Do you see some promise in some of these young players coming through at Aston Villa?
Yeah, they've definitely impressed me this year. They've been a bit of a surprise package. Mid-table will be a good position for them. But like you said, next season, if they add a couple of maybe high-profile signings, it could take them to that next level, because the Premier League is quite. It's in a position where teams can have a surprise and sneak into that top 4. You see West Ham doing it now, so it's not beyond the realms of possibility for Aston Villa to potentially go up there. The likes of Grealish, Watkins, El Ghazi's been really impressive for me this year. So. No, it's a good time to be an Aston Villa fan.
Yeah, it definitely is. And as I said, I love Trezeguet. Now, next game up was your side, and that was Manchester United at home to Brighton Hove Albion. We want to spend a little bit of time. This is your team here. They went behind early on this one. Danny Welbeck gets the rebound off Dean Henderson, saves it. It comes back. Danny Welbeck buries it. You're 1-0 down. You're thinking, oh, no, 1-0 down at half-time still. I'm not sure if you were getting worried yet, but you did have, early in the first half, you did have that, I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, I think Greenwood hit the post in the first half with a bullet. And then you also... the first goal, the equaliser, I think, when Rashford equalised in the 62nd minute, it was a beautiful assist, put through again, once again, from the master Bruno Fernandes. And then, of course, Mason Greenwood wrapping it up in the 83rd minute. You had 13 shots on goal to only 3 shots on goal for Brighton. So you probably deserved it overall. But did you breathe a sigh of relief after you were trailing for the first 60 or so minutes in the game to Brighton?
I was in no doubt at all that we would come back. You know, maybe if I was in a Leeds position with that leaky defence, I would be quite worried. But no, playing against Brighton, I was under no threat. Fernandes with the nice through ball to Rashford, Greenwood popping up again. I'm excited to see where he'll go. next season in terms of his quality and consistency. I'd really like to see him continue to go into double figures with his goals. But good result, 1-0 down, come back 2-1, typical Man United. Brilliant.
Yeah, well deserved, and Man U really needed that. Let's go on to the games, and we had just covered actually Sunday's games, and so this left. The only thing we need to cover now, this left today's games we just finished before we came on the broadcast today. They just wrapped up the games. Champions League, Manchester City, 2-1 winners at home to Borussia Dortmund. Kevin De Bruyne in the 19th minute with a well-taken goal, only for Marco Reus to equalise in the 84th minute. And then the guy we talked about, you and I, earlier in the season, Phil Foden, the youngster popping up with the winner in the 90th minute. And this is on the bench. This is on the bench for Manchester City today. On the bench, Sterling, Jesus, Torres, Mendy, Aguero, Fernandinho on the bench. That's how sick the depth is at Man City. And despite Erling Haaland, up front, Borussia Dortmund, he's inconsistent lately, even though he's banged in, 22 goals or 21 goals, I think, for Dortmund this season in the Bundesliga. It didn't happen for him today, and they lose to Manchester City. Enough said on that. We know how we feel on Manchester City. And then finally, Real Madrid, 3-1 winners at home to Liverpool. And I was surprised. Vinicius Jr., who I've criticised, haven't really talked about him much on the broadcast here when we haven't really covered the Spanish league because we focus on the Premier League and then we mention the occasional European or World Cup results. Carlos Vinicius, I have a question mark about him, but when he's on, he bangs it in for Real Madrid. It's the inconsistency with him. But Marco Asensio in the 36th minute, which sandwiched the two goals by Vinicius in the 27th and 65th minute, and Mo Salah with the lone goal for Liverpool in the 51st minute. We mentioned Diogo Jota earlier on. He didn't get on the score sheet, and I don't know if the setup, in my opinion, was the right setup for Liverpool. Firmino on the bench, Milner on the bench, Chamberlain on the bench, Shaqiri on the bench. I think you needed some experience. I would have put Milner on as a substitute for some experience, and I probably would have put in Firmino if maybe Mane was shooting blanks up front. But that's me. Bad result for Liverpool, do you think? Or do you think, given the number of injuries at the back, that they're not strong enough at the back yet?
Yeah, of course it's a bad result, getting beat 3-1 by any team. But getting beat by a team of Real Madrid's quality softens the blow. The guy Vinicius is very explosive, technically very good, but yes, he has been inconsistent. Liverpool, look, I didn't see the games just with the time difference here, but they get beat 3-1 by Real Madrid. There's no shame in it, but it's always, as a Man United fan, it's always satisfying to see Liverpool get beat.
Yeah, and the Leeds fans too. And I know, it's when the games were being played, it was in the middle of the morning or the night, I should say, in Australia. So I didn't expect you, unless you're popping up at 3 a.m, to watch one of those games. Let's cover the league table so far for the week ending week of 30th for most teams. Man City's played 31. Man City played 31, 74 points. Manchester United only played 30, but 14 points behind in 60 points. Leicester City, 56 points in third, played 30. West Ham, 4 points back in 52 points. Chelsea, 51 points in fifth place. And Spurs, despite losing once again still sit in the 6th place with 49 points. So there's still a lot to play for, given that West Ham in 4th are only 3 points ahead of 6th place Spurs. So plenty of points up for grabs for the European places. Nothing has been decided yet. Arsenal, Mike's team, 42 points in 10th. Leeds also 42 points in 11th, behind Arsenal by 1 place based on goal difference. Now, so far, what would you say before we wrap up? Players of the year so far. I want to get your players of the year so far in. If we take goalkeeper, players of the year, you can throw one name out, you can throw several names out for nomination. Any of the back four, any players come to mind, midfielders that come to mind, and then strikers that come to mind. So far for the year, performers of the season so far in your estimation, Darren?
Geez, it's very difficult to look past Manchester City. You think of Ederson as a goalkeeper. You think of that centre half. I can't recall his name now that they brought in. I think he's Spanish. He's done very well. Then you look at their attacking players. Gundogan with his goal scoring has to be up there. Mahrez has been amazing. Phil Foden has been amazing.
I like Diaz. I like Diaz a lot.
Diaz has been good. Manchester United, you can't look beyond Bruno Fernandes. You know, he's been exceptional all year. I think the other teams surprised. Danny Ings for Southampton has been very good. Just looking on through the middle of the table, I've been impressed by El Ghazi. Leeds, I like the guy Ealing at the back as well, the centre half. I like him. He probably doesn't get enough credit. I know they've conceded a lot of goals, but the role that he plays in the team is vital. I think the other day he ended up taking it from the final third. So there's been a few surprise packages, but if I had to pick one player, maybe I'm being selfish thinking about Man United, but it would be Fernandes.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. I think for me, I would tend to agree with a lot of those choices. In the goal, listen, the obvious, you can't look past Ederson. I do think consistently earlier in the season, it's two parts of the season. At the beginning of the season, I would have said Alisson. And for some reason, after he got COVID and he was out, and then he came back and he wasn't the same player. Then he went through personal loss and a lot of things happened. He hasn't been the same player. If you asked me earlier, the first few games into the season, I would have said Alisson. I do like certain keepers. I've always a big fan of Schmeichel. I do like players like Mendy. I think they've been a good addition to the Chelsea. I think him coming in. And I think a young star for the future, but he's too young, is, of course, Meilier in the Leeds goal. And then maybe Mike's team, Leno is a decent keeper as well. Now, at the back, it's a tough one at the back. I don't think there's been tremendous standouts. I do like Laporte. I do like Diaz. John Stones is inconsistent when he's on. He's right up there as well. Midfield, yeah. I mean, I've got to go like you. I've got to go Gundogan. I've got to go Fernandes, and then strikers up front. There's so many. I want to think of some young strikers coming up. I do like Mason Mount. I like Watkins. I'm a big fan of him. In the lead squad, of course, I'd probably say Rafinha. But, the most important players for me in the Premier League are probably Fernandes, Gundogan, and then for Man City, you have to be De Bruyne has got to be right up there. Young stars coming up, Foden is one of them. Watkins is one of them. There's too many to mention, but there's some of the names that have sort of popped up for me. If you look at the table, for instance, here, and you look at the top six, Man City, most valuable player for Man City right now, if we go through the top six, who's the most valuable player for Man City right now?
Most valuable? Jeez. I would say De Bruyne. Yeah, I would say De Bruyne.
Yeah, I think De Bruyne is my, choice for most valuable, and then behind him, I think Gundogan's been probably the second best on the team. Most valuable for Manchester United, I have to go with Fernandes because I think he's been an absolute difference maker. Is he your choice? I'm sure he's obvious.
Yeah, absolutely. Fernandes all the way.
Leicester City. You know what? This is a tough one. I think most people would say Vardy is the most critical point in their team. However, the recent games, the guy that keeps coming up in the recent games, and he's scored a bunch of the last few games, and I'm having a brain fart here.
Tielemans?
Not Tielemans, but the guy that scored. I think he scored a hat trick. I think it was Iheanacho. Iheanacho, for me, Kelechi Iheanacho has been an absolute godsend. When they've had these moments of inconsistency, Leicester, he's really pulled out points that they otherwise would have lost in games. And to me, if you ask me who's the most valuable in the second half of the season, it's Iheanacho. The first half of the season, Vardy. Second half, Iheanacho.
I think, David, you have to mention James Maddison. He's been fantastic. He's kind of tailed off, I think, the last couple of months, but he had a 4-month spell where he was unplayable. He was brilliant. So Maddison, for me, is going in a team of the year, even though the last couple of months he's tailed off. For a large chunk of the Premier League season, he's been really, really good.
Yeah, great eye for the ball. From distance, he can score left foot, right foot, and his assists. He's got these crazy assists that he comes up with. So, well pointed out. West Ham, who currently sit in fourth place, I have to say that players like Tomas Souček, for me, don't get the glory, but I think are an important part of the team for West Ham. Who on West Ham has impressed you? Is it people like Declan Rice? Is it Souček? Anybody stood out for you so far on West Ham's team?
Souček and Antonio. Souček, both, and Antonio have been fantastic. I'm a huge Mikel Antonio fan. He's not the most pleasing on the eye, but he's tough, he's strong, he gets the job done. He's like an old school centre forward. And Souček, fast, breaking from midfield, has an eye for goal as well. Those two have been fantastic for West Ham.
Excellent. And I think we're on the same page on that one. And then Chelsea, currently in fifth place. Players of the year for Chelsea so far, two parts of the season. You had the Lampard team, and now, obviously, under Tuchel, things have shifted a bit. Your take on the most valuable players for Chelsea so far?
Mason Mount would be mine. I think he's done really well this season. If he could add some more goals, keep chipping him with assists, then he could take his game to the next level and be a real standout performer for them. But I know Tuchel likes to chop and change, so if he doesn't get that consistent run of the team, that might be difficult for him. Who else for Chelsea? I like Pulisic as well. Again, similar to Mount, quite explosive, plays in between the lines quite well. So I think those two for Chelsea would be my pick.
I like both of them. I like Zuma, and Ziyech, when he's on, I think is another danger as well. Sixth place Spurs. Spurs has been this, to me, an enigma. The obvious players come to mind. Earlier in the season, the first 6 or 7 games, it was Son on fire, as well as the obvious Harry Kane. Harry Kane's been the most consistent when he's been healthy. But who's really consistent in that team? And I struggle with that. I'm going to struggle with that. I like Eric Lamela, but again, consistency I struggle with that team.
Yeah, you can't look beyond Harry Kane, really. He does always deliver. Who else? They've chopped and changed. Mora has been good, and Son as well. Son, Kane, and Mora would be the standard performers for me in that team.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So once again, we wrap up another week. Next week, it's going to be a tough week for Leeds. Hopefully, we get something out of the game against Manchester City. We did tie them 1-1 earlier in the season, but Manchester City right now are at pretty much full strength. So we're going to face a deeper squad in Manchester City, and they're very, very, very dangerous. I didn't check on the games who Manchester United are playing next week. Do you have any idea who you guys play next week?
No, I haven't looked. I'll have to look, check that up.
Well, we'll have the games for you next week, guys, and check us out on globalsportschannel.com. You can follow us on iTunes as well. And you can also check out the platforms that we've mentioned the last few weeks. You want to check us out and follow us while we're developing the platform, loveathletes.com, as well as the initiative that Mike is heading up, the Global Athletes Council. Thank you once again, my brother, Darren, once again for coming on, and look forward to seeing you next week, buddy. Have a fantastic week.
Yeah.
Always appreciate you, bud.
Thanks for having me.
Take care. We'll see you soon, guys. Take care.